Chapter 1. If you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. On May 7, 1931, the most sensational manhunt New York City had ever known had come to its climax. After weeks of search, Dugan Crowley, the killer, the gunman who didn't smoke or drink, was at bay, trapped in his sweetheart's apartment on West End Avenue. 150 policemen and detectives laid siege to his top floor hideaway. They chopped holes in the roof. They tried to smoke out Crowley, the cop killer, with tear gas. Then they mounted their machine guns on surrounding buildings, and far more than an hour one of New York's fine residential areas reverberated with the crack of pistol fire and the rat-tat-tat-tat of machine guns. Crowley, crouching over, crouching behind an overstuffed chair, fired insistently at the police. 10,000 excited people watched the battle. Nothing like it had ever been seen before on the sidewalks of New York. When Crowley was captured, Police Commissioner E.P. Mulroney declared that the two-gun desperado was one of the most dangerous criminals ever encountered in the history of New York. He will kill, said the commissioner at the drop of a feather. But how did Two-Gun Crowley regard himself? We know because while the police were firing into his apartment, he wrote a letter addressed to whom it may concern. And as he wrote, the flowing blood from his wounds left a crimson trail on the paper. In this letter, Crowley said, "Under my coat is a very hard but kind one that would do nobody any harm." A short time before this, Crowley had been having a naking party with his girlfriend on a country road out on Long Island. Suddenly, a policeman walked up to the car and said, "Let me see your license." Without saying a word, Crowley drew his gun and cut the policeman down with the shower of a lead. As the dying officer fell, Crowley leaped out of the car, grabbed the officer's revolver, and fired another bullet into a prostrate body. And that was the killer who said, "Under my coat is a very hard but a kind one. A one, the one that would do nobody any harm." Crowley was sentenced to the electric chair when he arrived at that death house in the Sing Sing. Did he say, "This is this is what I get for killing people"? No, he said, "This is what I get for defending myself." The point of the story is Two-Gun Crowley didn't blame himself for anything. This is an unusual attitude among criminals. If you think so, listen to this. I have spent the best years of my life giving people the lighter pleasures, helping them to have a good time, and all I get is abuse, the existence of a hunted man. That's Al Capone speaking. Yes, the America's most notorious public enemy, the most sinister gang leader who ever shot up Chicago. Capone didn't condemn himself. He actually regarded himself as a public benefactor, an unappreciated and misunderstood public benefactor. And so did Dutch Schultz before he crumbled up under gangster bullets in Newark. Dutch Schultz, one of the New York's most notorious rats, said in a newspaper interview that he was a public benefactor and he believed in it. I have I have had some interesting correspondence with Lewis Laws, who was warden of New York's infamous Sing Sing prison for many years. This subject, and he declared that few of the criminals in Sing Sing regard themselves as bad men, but they are just as human as you and I. So they rationalize, they explain, they can tell you why they had to crack a safe or pick a whip on the trigger finger. Most of them attempt by a form of reasoning, fallacious or logical, to justify their antisocial acts even to themselves, consequently stoutly maintaining that they should never have been imprisoned at all. If Al Capone, Dugan Crowley, Dutch Schultz, and the desperate men and women behind prison walls don't blame themselves for anything, what about the people with whom you and I come in contact? John Wanamaker, founder of the stores at beer that beer his name, once confessed, I learned 30 years ago that it is foolish to scold. I have enough trouble overcoming my own limitation without fretting over the fact that God has not seen fit to distribute evenly the gift of intelligence. Wanamaker learned this lesson early, and I personally had to blunder through it. Wanamaker learned this lesson early, but I personally had to blunder through this old world of 30 old world for the third of a century before it even began to dawn upon me that 99 times out of 100 people don't criticize themselves for anything, no matter how wrong it may be. Criticism is futile because it puts a person on the defensive and usually makes him strive to justify himself. Criticism is dangerous because it wounds a person's precious pride, hurts his sense of importance, and arouses resentment. B.F. Skinner, the world famous psychologist, proved through his experiments that an animal rewarded for good behavior will learn much more rapidly and retain what it learns far more effectively than an animal punished for bad behavior. Later studies have shown that the same applies to humans. By criticizing, not we do not make lasting changes and often incur resentment.